For the next roundtable, we will ask the engagement of practitioners. We have 4 fantastic people here. Fantastic people which have the possibility to cover different aspects on the fight against illicit trafficking, but also on the engagement of experts and professionals. They are all coordinators from 4 different institutions: EUROPOL, ICOM, the International Council of Museums, the EUROPA NOSTRA, and the Bibracte Museum, to speak about the different aspects linked to the tools we presented today. Something we understand is the illicit trafficking of cultural objects have, in fact, 2 different consequences, and the fight against it have 2 different aspects. It's, of course, a way to protect cultural heritage, but it's also a way to fight against criminality. So we will try to cover this aspect with a little short presentation of the different panelists. At first, Isabelle Meslier, here, is a French senior police officer, national expert at EUROPOL Innovation Lab. She works on innovation and tools, research, technical and methodological tools to improve the investigation work in the state members, but also in the associated members and the third-party members of the European Union. Hélène Ventimiglia there is coordinator in the Heritage Protection Department of the International Council of Museums, ICOM. She coordinates operational projects related to cultural heritage, in particular ANCHISE, from a museum perspective. Ted Oakes there, they are exactly at the good order. It's perfect for me. Ted Oakes has worked in the International Museum and Heritage for over a decade, including ICOM and UNESCO. His doctoral studies examined European response to the illicit trafficking of cultural property. Currently, he is policy coordinator at EUROPA NOSTRA, leading the development of the policy aspects of the European Heritage Hub project. Agathe Le Riche, Maugis, is archaeologist and specialist of historical heritage. She was for almost 2 decades manager of the heritage mediation of the historical town of Nevers in France, and joined the Archaeological Research Center, Museum and Archaeological Site of Bibracte 3 years ago, in charge of digital mediation and educational partnerships. She, for these reasons, coordinates the Picture project she will talk you about. First question, and it will be almost the same for everyone. We have a little more time like this, and we will let you react. The first question, the same for everyone. In your work, in your institution, what are the tools you already developed, or you are developing or promoting? So on this first question, I'll let Elena from ICOM react the first, please.
Thank you for your question. So let's begin with ICOM and the tools developed by the institution, the organization since its beginning. So ICOM has developed several tools and methodologies since its creation in 1946. But the most emblematic tools, maybe you already know them, are the red list, which are made by museum professionals for museum professionals, but also for non-museum professionals, also law enforcement agencies. So they are distributed to different kind of professionals involved in the heritage protection. So since 2000, almost 20 ICOM red lists have been published. But what is an ICOM red list? It's a document like this. So I have several examples which gather different typologies of objects at risk of being trafficked and illegally sold. So there are not objects that are stolen in the red list. And to be published in a red list, the objects have to meet 3 criteria. So the first one, it has to be an object which is on high demand in the art trade market. It has to be vulnerable and also protected by national legislation. So yeah, you have to meet these three criteria to include an object in a red list. And the particularity of the red list is that we work with national committees and the experts in the museum community who know what are the most the objects which are the most at risk, to include them in the red lists. And then there are different types of red lists as well. Standard red lists. Illicit trafficking, as we know, is a phenomenon which is in every country and which can happen everywhere. But there are also emergency red lists for countries where there is a disaster or a conflict, which makes heritage most vulnerable. So here I have also an emergency red list which we published for Ukraine. It's one of the most recent red lists from ICOM for now. So maybe if you want to have a look at the format of the red lists. Yeah, so as I said, these red lists are distributed to customs for identification and seizure of objects, also for police services, for investigation on trafficking, and also heritage professional in the cultural field, auction houses, collectors and museum, more for the aspect of identification and incentive to verify provenance of the objects. Yeah, so this is the most emblematic tool, but there are also other tools developed by ICOM. For example, the Object ID, which was launched in 1997. And it's a standardized procedure for describing and documenting cultural objects. It helps the identification of objects in case of theft and during the recovery processes. And it's a very interesting tool in the way that it's a result of cooperation between different kind of professionals involved in the heritage protection. Indeed, it was developed in collaboration with museum community, police, and custom agencies as well, the art trade, insurance industry, and valuers of art and antiquities. It has been promoted by major law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, Scotland Yard, Interpol as well, organizations including YCO, UNESCO as well, and obviously by the museum community. And also the object ID promotes a simple methodology to describe an object, and it's very useful in the way that it has been retaken by the police services and Interpol as well as an inspiration for the creation of databases, because the criteria of the object ID meets the needs of databases. So that's just an example to say that the methodology is already, the existing methodologies can be used in technological tools, and it's a link with our project ANCHISE. So yeah, what we promote, it's linked to what I've been presenting, so our tools, but also the cooperation with the other entities. It can be international cooperation based on our cooperation with other organizations such as UNESCO and the existing conventions like the 1917 convention. But also a cooperation on the ground with experts, with our national committees, and yeah, the network in the countries where there is an urgent fight against illicit trafficking. So that's all from ICOM.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Helena. We have to say that ICOM is a node actor of this fight. So thank you very much. Isabelle Meslier, as member of the Innovation Lab of EUROPOL, which tool are you developing or promoting in order to improve investigation capacities of the illicit trafficking of cultural goods?
So, firstly, I will speak on behalf of my colleagues from the EUROPOL Innovation Lab. And on behalf of my colleagues working in the core group on illicit traffic of cultural goods, that the Innovation Lab is co-chairing, in which we are developing several tools. On Innovation Lab, we are developing some tools through colleagues sharing in a cooperation mode in a EUROPOL tool repository that can help colleagues in member states that times to analyze pictures, videos, and OSINT for speech to text and something like that. And in the framework, more specifically of the core group on illicit traffic of cultural goods, we are developing in either pre-requirements for a dedicated web crawler, because we have made a first study on the state of art of the colleagues working on the field on this traffic, and most of the countries have no tools and specifically no dedicated web crawler and no dedicated databases, given that we have also colleagues that are partly working on illicit traffic of cultural goods because there are no dedicated police or gendarmerie department on that topic. So in the databases subgroup, I'm looking for my colleagues who is dealing with the chair. We are working on two types. The first is the pre-requirements list, and Peter has developed and built a data set of pictures during the fine art fairs in Maastricht, and we will be able to test different types of tools with this data set. It's ongoing, it's not finished at all. And on the subgroup on databases, after having mapped all the databases that are already existing, it's not a question of creating from scratch a new databases, but to optimize their use. We know that interoperability is not possible due to the national legal constraints, the factors. We need to know how the member states and associated countries and sub-countries deal without any dedicated database, because the stolen and looted artifacts are diluted in global databases, so with a minor efficiency, I would say. And the second point, and thank you to Céline that mentioned us, we are working on taxonomy that was mentioned and tasked to us during the action plan. And for that purpose, I'm organizing an online workshop on taxonomy, and I invite once again all ANCHISE consortium. And because we want to make a statement of the use of taxonomy, which taxonomy is used by whom, how can we improve the cooperation, and because the first purpose of that core groups is to foster the cooperation, and having a common language is the first step to having a common tool and a common methodology, because as you are speaking of a tool, it's not only technological, it's also a methodology, it's also an organization. So many things are linked, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Yes, we have exactly the same, always the same question, that the interoperability, the taxonomy, the thesaurus, what do we use for databases?
I just, if I may, I just forgot one point in the subgroup on databases. We have just released a survey amongst our experts that we have mapped in a first step to know how they are using databases and which databases they are using. It's not only law enforcement agents, but all the stakeholders we are working with, or museum experts, and also the customs colleagues.
Thank you very much. Agathe, Madame Le Riche, I should say, as part of Bibracte, but also involved in the Picture project, I think with Michael Culture too. So you are part of an educational program that you could speak about, and speak about the tools for education you developed during this project. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed, the development of specific tools, in this case, educational resources, is precisely the objective of the European Picture project. Picture stands for Preventing Illicit Trafficking of Cultural Goods, of Cultural Heritage, Educational Resources. Picture stems directly from the European project Nature, whose recommendations highlighted the need to raise awareness and to guide educational communities. Picture also fully aligns with the EU Action Plan against illicit trafficking of cultural goods, with point 4 focusing on developing the protection of cultural goods by maximizing support for stakeholders, especially through engaging young people via programs such as Erasmus+. The Erasmus+ Picture project involves 4 schools, 2 in Spain, 1 in Greece, and 1 in Italy, and 4 experts, Michael Culture Association and the National Higher Police School in France, present with here today. The Museumix Association, which organizes creative marathons in museums to produce prototypes of mediation, and Bibracte as coordinator due to its expertise in archaeology and education. Bibracte is an archaeological site, a museum, and a European research center, and it's also a national center for artistic and cultural education resources. And we provide training for teachers and cultural mediators. To develop our picture resources, we use the model of open educational resources initiated by UNESCO, meaning learning materials with intellectual property licenses like Creative Commons licenses, which allow free use, adaptation, and distribution. We also rely on various pedagogical methods, such as STEAM for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics for resources produced by Spanish partners, arts and cultural education for those from the Franco-Hellenic High School and Bibracte, and entertainment, which has attracted several of us. These resources also promote existing tools, such as UNESCO awareness videos or Interpol ID Art mobile app, and red list of ICOM, and also European digital collections like EUROPA or the Digital Museum of Micropholy. Some of these existing tools are directly used inside the proposed activities, while others are presented in conclusion as a way to develop deeper into the subject of each resource. These resources, each resource addresses one or more topics of the issues that concerns all of us today: archaeological looting, art theft, identification of actors and trafficking network, fighting against it, and so on. These resources take various forms: role-playing game, board game, for example, the resource developed by Michael Culture guilty treasures is based on red list of ICOM. Also, school exercises, documentary files or videos with questions, tutorial, and also a database of study case of looting and trafficking artifacts. But they are all always directly linked to the school curricula of the project partner countries to make easier their use by teachers. The 10 prototypes already developed are available on the project website, picture.eu. I have also brought some copies, paper copies, to share with you if someone is interested to discover one of these resources. And after having been tested with students, the finalized resources will be available in October on the Erasmus Plus platform and the educational platform of partner countries. They will be in English and French, and for some of them in Italian, Spanish, Catalan, and Greek.
Thank you very much, Agathe. For those who don't know Bibracte, it's the occasion to mention this absolutely fantastic center. So go to the web page. And for the people who don't know Picture, you have to go. And I say that as I am a teacher of history and geography, and I'm just wondering when I will have the occasion to use the tools developed by Picture. So thank you very much for that. For our last but not least speaker, Ted Oaks, which tools are you developing or promoting with EUROPA NOSTRA in order to fight or to educate on the illicit trafficking of cultural goods?
Thank you very much. It's hard to come at the end of an evening or an afternoon like this when there's so much going on, and I've been taking notes. There's quite a lot here, but I am aware as well that we are running short on time. But in terms of what EUROPA NOSTRA has developed and what we've done, it might be useful maybe to give a bit of context as well to our organization. So EUROPA NOSTRA, we're a non-governmental organization, and we've been working for about 60 years right now. We're a grassroots organization, society organization as well, and we were founded in the 1960s, around the same time as the floods in Venice and the floods in Florence, and essentially concerned citizens, concerned local stakeholders came together to create a European organization that could protect and advocate for cultural heritage across Europe. And we've been doing that ever since as well now. So we have representation in over 40 different countries in Europe. We have close links with the European institutions here in Brussels. And essentially, we are a network of organizations and individuals who can campaign and who can advocate for cultural heritage. And in terms of our programs, some of the programs that we work on are probably one of our flagship programs for heritage at risk. Would it be the 7 Most Endangered program? And this raises awareness to certain types of heritage that is at risk and proposes recommendations for action and to rally support for this endangered heritage. We also have an award scheme that we run in cooperation as well with the European Commission too as well, and this is almost the opposite. It's to highlight the best practices that exist in heritage in Europe, and we support research and education and training and awareness raising on this. And at the moment, then, perhaps one of our biggest projects then is the European Heritage Hub, and this is bringing together a variety of stakeholders and NGOs and universities, and again, local and regional governments to create a more structured cooperation and coordination amongst the heritage sector. But I suppose the kind of the fil rouge in all of this and the, how this impacts on cultural heritage is that our work is about advocacy. We're about networking. The strength of all these programs, the strength of all these tools goes back to what I said at the beginning. EUROPA NOSTRA is an organization that is grassroots. It's a network. And we're there to campaign to protect heritage, to combat against threats that are out there, like illicit trafficking, because we can only do it when we're all working together. It's only when we act together and work together that we can protect cultural heritage. And this is, I suppose, the raison d'etre of our organization, not just to to highlight the successes that are out there, but also to raise awareness to the threats. And it's very much what brought me here today as well as a member of the advisory board. This matters to EUROPA NOSTRA, and we're happy to be part of this project and to give our support to combating illicit trafficking.
Thank you very much. And also, if you do not know the Europa website, you will be that it's huge and very, very interesting. So go to the webpage. I do the publicity a little bit. We continue to the last, in fact, question for every speaker there. The last is also, I think, one of the most important of the day. So I will ask you, every one of you, what do you think about the tools that were presented today in the ANCHISE consortium? What are you feeling about them? Do we miss something? There are gaps. So if you have any remarks, any ideas about what you saw, what you heard today, please feel free to share with us. So maybe we will begin with Ted, by example, directly.
Back again. I suppose that leads quite nicely to what I said at the beginning, where that we at EUROPA NOSTRA were advocating and we're a network. And in terms, I think, of the tools that we saw today at ANCHISE that are being offered by ANCHISE, the technical tools, monitoring of archaeological sites or the mobile applications, I think these are something that are certainly needed in the current context in trying to fight illicit trafficking, especially when we think that things are going to change soon. We're having the new European regulation for the import of cultural goods, so this will make a big change, and we need tools like this to try and protect heritage. But I suppose my focus here would be going back to what I said earlier, and less so much on the technical tools, but perhaps more on the policy outputs and the awareness raising objectives of ANCHISE as well, which I think are something we really should underline here. Because I think the role of ANCHISE here could be to really keep this issue on the agenda. And again, this is where I go back to, for instance, EUROPA NOSTRA, or for EUROPA NOSTRA's background in grassroots awareness-raising organizations. One of the things that we're trying to do at the moment in EUROPA NOSTRA with the Heritage Hub and with our partners, Europeana, KU Leuven, and Eurocities, many partners that we're working with, is trying to overcome this kind of sectionalization or the siloization that exists in the heritage sector, and trying to create a more integrated and multifaceted analysis of the heritage sector, and also realizing that each partner has different expertise and different experience. And with the hub, this is something we're trying to do as well too, to recognize that each partner can bring a different type of knowledge or experience and ideas as well to try and to fight against illicit trafficking. And I feel this is really what ANCHISE should continue to put emphasis on, to gather information, to gather expertise that is out there, to raise awareness, to inform. And this should be done just as much, in my opinion, alongside the technical tools that are out there. And in general, I think when we're thinking of the heritage sector and heritage protection and illicit trafficking, it's a sector that has a lot of experience. I mean, even the panel that's here, we've police officers, we've museum professionals, we've customs organizations. Sometimes maybe we're talking too much on our own or with our own sectors, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's also very important as well to talk to each other and to try and learn from each other and understand from each other. We might not always agree, but when we understand each other a bit better, we can make more informed decisions. We can make more informed decisions that will inform policy, for instance, at European level. And this is something that I think ANCHISE should continue to maintain. And perhaps the greater question, I suppose, is long term, and I suppose how this can be maintained in the long term as well, once we come to the end of this project.
Elena, if you may.
Thank you. So yeah, my answer will be in the line of the answer of Ted, I think, about the gathering of expertise. But yeah, so we know that there are a lot of tools and projects at the EU level, but also beyond the EU, on the development of these technological tools and also databases, which highlights also the urgency and the gravity of the phenomenon of looting, theft, and illicit trade of cultural property. But for us, for ICOM, it's the first time that we are really part of this kind of project as a practitioner, and we have the chance to see the development of the tools and also to test and evaluate the tools with museum professionals, which is crucial in this project. So we really believe that it will help to bridge the gap, as we always say during the presentation of this project, but it's really, really crucial for us to see how the tools will be used by the museum professionals, and that they feel ownership of the tools, because then it will assure the sustainability of the project and give an example for a long-lasting effect and replicability of the project. So yeah, we will be very implicated in the different demonstration on the tools, and yeah, for us it's the most important point.
Thank you. Isabelle?
I think that indeed filling the gap towards this very fast evolving situation of looting particularly, but stolen also, giving the most opportunity to tackle this crime to our law enforcement, but as stakeholders, I mean the museums, the dealers and so on, that could help them to stop the traffic will be a real add value, because we are running after the bad guys, I will say, despite the huge efforts of everybody in this room and beyond this room. And the fact is, I already knew some of the tools, but none of them. And I discover some tools during the presentation. And I think each tool is complementing the other, and having a sort of platform is a real good idea, and will be a value for people who are tackling this crime.
Thank you very much. Can I have the microphone? So, Agathe, from an educational perspective, donc selon une perspective éducative, we will switch between French and English for the last part. Do you think that some of the tools presented today can be useful for education and dissemination? Est-ce que vous pensez que ça peut être utile?
Alors, effectivement, parmi ceux que j'ai vus, celui que j'ai trouvé le plus proche de certaines choses que l'on fait dans les ressources, c'est l'outil Kiku.
So the Kiku tool seems for her the most close to what they are using.
Donc, à la fois parce que il peut être d'un usage grand public,
It can be used for a broader audience,
comme l'application mobile ID-Art d'Interpol.
like the ID-Art mobile application from Interpol.
Et un usage des deux pour à la fois rechercher des objets volés et après essayer de les identifier sur les réseaux sociaux pourrait être un jeu de rôle, un jeu intéressant.
Using both of those applications, by example, during play games,
Roleplay.
Can be very interesting in class, yeah.
Et l'une des ressources que je suis en train de terminer dans les documents que l'on fait étudier aux élèves.
One of the resources she's finishing in the documents that they made studied by the students. Yeah.
Il y a une page du site eBay de vente en ligne.
There is a page of the eBay website.
Pour la requête monnaie gauloise.
With the request, yeah. Gallic coins.
Voilà. Donc l'éducation aux médias fait aussi partie des programmes scolaires.
The education to media is also part of the scholar programs.
Et la sensibilisation aussi à ce qui se fait sur ces plateformes de vente en ligne est important.
And this sensibilization can be done on these platform websites, and it's very important.
Et par rapport l'autre aspect de votre question, au sujet du gap d'outils qu'on pourrait attendre.
The other aspect of my question about the gap of the tools, which kind of tools we can expect or wait?
Un brouilleur de détecteur de métaux pourrait être un outil intéressant.
Sorry. Yeah, the room is reacting for the French speakers there, and they are too numerous today. The eraser of a metal detector could be very interesting as a tool.
Même s'il y aura toujours une escalade de technologies entre je veux dire, les outils de protection et les outils de destruction.
Yeah, there will be always more and more tools for destruction and also tools for protection.
Tout au moins, ce type de brouilleur permettrait au moins d'empêcher l'utilisation des versions pour enfants, qui sont les plus simples et celles qui sont les moins perfectionnées.
This kind of eraser, it's the good term, brouilleur, something to erase the use and the effects of the metal detecting on an archaeological site. Yeah, that's means it's clear in English. Yeah, sorry for that. So it could be very useful, at least, to protect some archaeological site already protected. Thank you very much for every one of you. Do you have any question in the room, please?
I think Thomas online should precise his question, because for now we only have dear colleagues, which is a good start, but it's not a question technically. So I'll tell you if so Thomas is from Interpol. And no, he's just offering his contact here. So Thomas Jäger wants to show himself.
So, thank you very much. We can applaud our speakers today. And thank you to all to give the perspectives about this huge and very important topic. We let the last words to our leader and coordinator, Véronique Shankowski, for the final remarks.